Hello everybody and welcome to ESPRIT TNG wire EDM development. My name is Scott and we'll be talking about the development that's been done since the last World Conference. So basically a summary or a recap of the development that's been previously shown. And also we're going to talk about the development that's been done in the previous milestone. So should be new to everybody. So, the development since the last World Conference. What was new? Well, introduced in milestone 82 was corner witness relief, disable radius entry on rough cut, start hole material removal and simulation, repeat arbitrary cuts. Introduced in milestone 87 was simulation start at any for wire EDM, cutoff clearance, and localization of the databases. And in milestone 95, we introduced technology reminders and wire EDM machine packages. As I mentioned, today we're going to talk about the new development that has not been previously demonstrated, and that's the advanced wire EDM sorting. Again, just as a reminder, I'm not going to go in and show you files here, but just as a reminder of what we have developed since the last World Conference. A corner witness relief was introduced in milestone 82. And you can see basically this modifies the rough wire path and allows you to put in some corner relief on your guide plates and also entry witness relief to help eliminate geometric errors. In milestone 82, we allow you now to disable the radius entry on the rough cut only, as well as a simulation enhancement where we actually remove the start hole material. So when you define the start hole material in your pocketing operation, the simulation will actually remove that material as if the plate had been drilled, and the simulation is now more realistic. In milestone 82, we were quite busy, as you can see. We also introduced the concept of repeating, or actually you can not only repeat an arbitrary cut, but you can also eliminate a cut. So you now have this cut count column, and for any of your rough or skim cuts, you can change the number and it will repeat everything. It will repeat the same power, the same offset, the same feed rate. And basically this helps you to either ensure good geometry or increase your surface finish. Milestone 87, we introduced another simulation enhancement which allows you to select any machine operation or link and start the simulation from that point. So if you have a very long program and you don't want to simulate everything, you can select a specific point in the program to start the simulation. We also introduced the concept of cutoff clearance, so we can actually run an additional clearance on only the cutoff. You can see it modifies the wire path. In milestone 87, we also introduced the idea of we changed the idea of the localization of the databases. So there's basically two ways to localize the wire EDM databases. We have a DLL, which is global and non-editable by the end user. Basically, this is used by the whole system, so you have seamless localization. But we also give the reseller, the end user, the flexibility to create their own databases and localize those by using the XML resource files. In milestone 95, we've introduced the concept of the wire EDM technology reminder, which allows us to quickly check the database settings. So you can hover, it's basically like a tooltip. You hover over the wire EDM expert system button, and it will show you what values were used in the machine series technology, the wire and workpiece data, and also any additional cut information. So you can see quickly what was picked to actually output those offsets, the feed rates, and the power settings in your technology page. So there's no longer a need to reopen the wire EDM expert system. In milestone 95, we also introduced the concept of wire EDM machine packages. So the idea is we can provide an out-of-the-box complete solution, which includes both the wire EDM machine package, which is the machine, the controller, the machine project, as well as a post-processor. And these are the machines that are available. We have Fanuc, Makino, Mitsubishi, Ona, and Sodic. So that summarizes the work that we've done since the last World Conference, so quite a bit there. If you wanted specific demonstrations, you can go back to the previously provided milestone presentations where we've demonstrated those in detail. But today we're going to concentrate on wire EDM advanced sorting because this is brand new functionality which we're introducing. So if we think back to the legacy wire EDM advanced sorting, we have this page. It looks kind of antiquated. It was not very easy to use. So you can see some of the enhancement requests that we've received from our resellers, users, and employees. Okay, so we wanted a more user-friendly interface. It wasn't very clear on what was happening or why. We wanted to provide the freedom to the user for manually sorting within the machine operation list. So basically, let me do what I want. Let me move my cuts around the way that I want. I know best. We wanted it to be more straightforward and, as I said, more flexibility. So some changes, big changes here. The machine operation list no longer needs to respect the part operation list. So again, previously by manually sorting operations, you may have noticed that sometimes ESPRIT was preventing you from actually moving a cut exactly where you wanted. And that's because of the limitation placed upon us from the machine operation list needed to respect the part operation list. And another huge change is the EDM advanced sorting is now applied directly to the machine operation list by default. So previously you would have to hold down the Alt key and while triggering the advanced operation sorting to allow you to sort on the machine operation list. You can see that our interface has changed quite a bit here. So again, trying to make it a little bit more user friendly, more straightforward on what is going on. So basically in this area we have a selection area. This is where you're going to select what you want to sort. So we either have use filter or we have manual selection. And if we use the filter, we can filter according to the feature type, the operation type, or the cut type. The moving or the position area is basically where are the sorted cuts going to be placed. Of course, the sorting area, as the name implies, this is going to be how do you want to sort. You can see a lot of the same settings as we had previous. And of course, the optimization. How do we want to optimize the sort? So first, let's talk about the selection of the sort. So as I mentioned, we have either current selection or use filter. If we choose current selection, this basically applies the selected sorting operations to any of the operations that the user is manually selected on the machine operation list. If we use filter, as I mentioned, we can actually filter based on the criterion feature type, operation type, or cut type. Okay. As we use our filter, okay, we can actually select multiple filters. So here you can see, for example, we have a feature type selected, an operation type, and 3 different cut types. If you basically, so you can left mouse click on each one and that will add to your selection filter. If you right mouse click, it will only filter that particular type. So for example, if you only wanted to select punches within your feature type, you can right mouse click on punch and that will be the only item that's selected. And as you're using this use filter, you can actually still manually add or subtract from the selection group directly from the machine operation list if needed. So quite flexible there. Now with the sorting placement, we have 3 settings that are the same as they were with the legacy, where we have at the start, at the end, or in place. And then there's a new setting which is called cumulative. Cumulative, what will happen is your sorted cuts will be inserted after the last sorted cut. So basically you're sorting things and they're being placed either cumulatively or in succession. And we'll show you how that works during our live demonstration. Now, if you think back again to the legacy, when you were doing machine operation sorting, it was very confusing. You had a sort by and you actually had 12 different settings. The reason why we had 12 different settings is because we were combining the selection and the sorting together in one. So what we've done now is we made things a lot more simple by separating the selection, which we saw just a minute ago, and we're separating that from the sorting itself. So you can see we have now only 4 settings because we're only dealing with the sorting type. So we have per cavity, and then rough cutoff skim, rough skim cutoff, or rough and skim and cutoff. So we're able to simplify matters by separating the selection from the sorting. The optimization, basically you have the same options as your legacy or your old sorting, but we did clean up the interface. Now let me go ahead and switch to ESPRIT, and we'll see the wire EDM advanced sorting in work. So first we have all of our operations already programmed. We can look at my machine operation list here on the right side. You can see I went ahead and programmed my operations. If we take a look at the way this part was programmed, you can see that I have a hole, okay, I have a punch, I have a pocketing on my hole, and then I have an additional punch. So I actually have 2 different parts, and I've actually also used part copies. So if we go into look at the machine setup, you can see I have my part. Okay, and we've copied that over, and then we have my second part, and we've copied that over as well. So there's quite a few things going on here. We're taking advantage of the ESPRIT TNG functionality of having more than one part in my ESPRIT file, and also using the part copies. Now this was great functionality that greatly simplifies my programming. However, it really complicated my part operation or my operation sorting. Okay, if we were to try to use the legacy operation sorting, we wouldn't be able to actually accomplish this because we are using more than one part and because we are using part copies. That was due to, again, the fact that we had to respect the part operation list. The machine operation list had to respect the order of the part operation list. So let's think about how we want to sort our operations here. So as I mentioned, we have, as I said, we have 2 holes. We have both a pocketing and just a contouring on my holes. And so maybe what we would like to do first, of course, is let's do the pocketing of the holes first, then we'll do the contouring of the holes second, and then we'll want to do our punches, of course, last, because we obviously don't want to drop our punches until the very end. So as I mentioned, we can manually select things and move them up and down the list. You can see I no longer have any restrictions on where I move these items. So you have to be a little bit careful, because although we do provide you with the freedom of moving things exactly where you want them, you could end up with a scenario where, for example, one of your cuts, for example, the cutoff of my punch is moved before, say, the rough and the skim, which doesn't make much sense. But we do provide you the flexibility here to move the operations anywhere on the machine operation list that you would like. Let's go to the EDM ribbon, and we're going to trigger our EDM sorting. Here we can see our new interface. As I mentioned, we have the selection up here with either current selection or use filter. What's kind of neat here is if we do use the filter, as I mentioned, okay, I mentioned that we want to use the holes, so we want to choose the holes first. We only want, let's say we only want the pockets. Okay, so we're going to do the pockets first. So I'm going to right mouse click on pocket, and you can see it only selects the pocket. If I were to left mouse click, you can see that it just adds to the filter. But by right mouse clicking, we are selecting only that particular item. Now, as I do that, you may notice over here on my machine operation list that some of the operations are turning blue, which is indicating that these are being selected. So you can see that there's some interactivity between the EDM sorting and the selection up here and my machine operation list. As I change, maybe, here we go, maybe move up here. Okay, so there's my pocketing. So as I change my selection here, items get selected or deselected accordingly. So you can see right now I only have my pocket holes, so none of my other holes are selected. And then we have our cut types. So we have rough, cut off, and skim. We'll just leave all three of those selected because we're choosing pocketing, so it doesn't make much sense to separate the cut type. With the position, we're going to start using the cumulative. So remember, with the cumulative, it's going to place the selected cuts after the last sorted cuts. Now, in our first time we click sort up here, it will just place these at the top. Okay, but then afterwards, it will place it after the last sorted operation. So it'll be doing it cumulatively. How do we want to sort? Well, in this case, we can just say per cavity. Okay, we have again all of our sorting options here. And then of course we have our routines. So I can choose any of my optimization routines. Perhaps I'm going to use shortest path in this particular case. So we have our operations that we have sorted, that we want to sort, selected already. Again, I can manually add or remove from this group if I wanted to from the machine operation list. And I'm going to simply click sort. And what happens here is you can see that my selected operations are now placed at the top of my machine operation list. So it's going to do basically all of my whole pocket operations first, and it's sorted according to this criteria here. Next, I want to use my whole, say, contour operations. Okay, so I'm going to now I'm going to leave my feature type alone because I just want my holes. I'm going to right mouse click on my contour operation type. We're going to choose all of my cut types again still. I only actually have a rough and a skim for my holes. I'm not doing a cutoff, but having this selected doesn't make a difference. Again, as I change my criteria, my sorting filter, you can see that it changes what's actually selected here on my operation list, my machine operation list. Again, we're going to use cumulative. So this is going to place the operations, the sorted operations, after the very last sorted operation, which was this pocket hole. Again, we can say per cavity. Let's choose shortest path and click apply. Okay, so now my second sorting has been finished. Oops, sorry. As you can see, again, it selects the operations and it moves them right after the last sorted. So that's why that's due to us using cumulative for our positioning. Then finally, I want to be able to go through and I'm going to choose my punches. So I'm going to right mouse click here on my feature type. I just have basically contours for my punches. So you can see I have the punches that are applied to the punch 2 feature and the punch operation that's applied to the punch 4. Again, we'll say cumulative. Let's do this. Instead of saying sort by per cavity, let's do rough and skim cutoff. Let's say alternate direction. And then we'll also, again, choose shortest path for our sorting routine. So I'll go ahead and click sort. And it's going to then reorder my punches. You can see, again, those are placed after the last sorted because we're choosing cumulative. Now, if I'm happy with my sort at this point, I can click OK to confirm, or at any point I could have clicked cancel. So click OK to accept our sorting. And then if we go to our machine operation, or excuse me, my machine view, okay, and I'll start the simulation, and we can see that we should have our holes being cut first. Remember, we're pocketing the holes first. Then it will move to the contouring of my holes. And then it should start doing my punches, where it's going to do the rough and skim first, and then it will cut off afterwards. Okay, now you can see it's doing my contouring of my holes. Now it should start doing my punch, rough, and skim. Now I could have probably optimized it even further by having it start over here when it finished the last hole, but that was just due to my sorting options. So I could go back and I can manually move things around if I needed to. And so that's the great flexibility of the system, is you can use both the EDM advanced sorting and manually sorting together to get exactly what you want. And notice that, again, there are no more restrictions on my machine operation list. So you can see that on my part operation list, I have part 1 and I have punch, punch, punch. So I have my rough, skim, cut off. Then I have my hole, okay, rough and skim. And then on part 2, I have my punch, punch, punch. So rough, cut off, or excuse me, rough, skim, cut off. And then I have my pocketing. So previously, with the legacy again, it would not have allowed me to actually go through and place my pockets above my punches, because it would have been violating the part operation list. Let's look at one more example here. So we're going to go and open a new file. And in this particular case, again, we have a slightly different file here. Okay, if we take a look, we only have one part. But again, we're using part copies to further complicate matters. And hopefully this will give you a little bit more clarity on the sorting. So you can see here we have a punch. So we have our rough punch, our skim cuts on our punch, and our cutoff. So we have a rough, 2 skims, and a cutoff on our punch. Then we have another one. Okay, rough, 2 skims, and a cutoff. Then we have the operations on the hole, the contours on the holes. All right, and we want to, again, reorder this. So first thing I want to do is I want to actually do the rough on my holes first. So we'll trigger the EDM advanced sorting once again. I'm going to use the filter. I'm going to right mouse click here, okay, for holes. I only want to use the contour, and I only want to use the rough, okay, because I wanted to be able to place all of my hole roughing operations first. Again, we're going to use cumulative, and let's sort by rough, cutoff, skim. Even though we're just doing rough only, we want the roughs to happen first, so I'm going to choose basically rough, cutoff, skim, or rough, skim, cutoff. Actually, one of these, any of these should be fine, but for the next operation, I think the rough, cutoff, skim will come in handy. We're not going to split our skims. Excuse me, easy for me to say. Alternate direction is no. And for our routine, let's choose sort shortest path. I'm going to go and sort. And now if we look at our machine operation list, all of my rough hole operations, cuts, will be placed first. Next, let's go ahead and let's go ahead and do our punches. And we're going to actually just do the rough and the skim. We don't want to do the cutoff, obviously, of our punches next. So I'm going to right mouse click here on punch, choose contour again, and I want my rough and my skim. So I can click on that, on skim, and that will add it to my filter. Again, we're going to use cumulative, but this time, sorry, we're going to go ahead and change this to rough and skim, then cut off, obviously. And then we can go ahead and click on sort once again, and that will place my rough and skims after my roughing of my holes because we're using the cumulative. Then we'll go ahead and choose the whole feature type again. So I right mouse click because that's the only one I want to select. If I were to left mouse click, you can see again, you can add or remove from your feature type. I'm going to choose contour. And then let's go ahead and choose both the cutoff and the skim. So I don't want the rough, I want the cutoff and the skim. Again, we'll use cumulative. And let's say this is rough, cutoff, skim. Again, we can leave all of our rest of our sorting and our optimization settings alone. Click on sort, and that will move it to, again, up on the operation list after the last sorted. And then finally, we want to be able to, well, actually, we don't need to do any more sorting because just by default, we had the the punch cutoffs are last. That's a result of our cumulative sorting, so they're naturally at the bottom. Now, if for some reason I wanted to optimize those somehow, I could go ahead and run another sorting operation. So for example, maybe I wanted to use this some new kind of optimization routine. You can still run and it will sort them and it will keep them at the bottom of your machine operation list. Again, you can click OK to verify. We can then run the simulation. So let's just look at our operation list. Let me go to my machine. And in this particular case, you can see that again, I have actually two parts. Well, I have one part, but it's set up in on two different fixtures, and that's done actually on the machine. So this would have actually added some complexity to sorting as well without the advanced sorting. Okay, without the ability to have the flexibility to break the machine operation list, we would never have been able to get the operations in the order that we wanted. And of course, we can go and run the simulation and confirm we have exactly what we want. That's pretty much it for me. Again, thank you for joining me. Again, if you have any questions, you know how to contact us. Please let us know your feedback. We're interested in knowing what you think about the enhancements since the last World Conference, and especially about any type of feedback you might have on how we can improve advanced wire EDM sorting. Thank you.